Hello and welcome to this breakout session on using 2D details in a BIM project. My name is Dimitrios Sapios. I'm a pre-sales consultant for Brixis with a background in structural engineering, and I will guide you through the highlights of this new workflow we created. What is it? It is a way of linking a 2D detail drawing to a BIM model. The 2D detail can be existing or new. How do you do that? You create a new detail file or import a DWG file that contains your existing detail. The layout view of that file is the 2D representation of your detail. Now you can place references to that detail in your BIM model. References are solids classified as BIM details. On your sheets, you can tag those detail references as any other entity. And then we can collect all tagged details and insert the 2D detail representation on your sheets. Why did we build this? No matter how well you're adapted to using BIM models, there is still a high need of 2D documentation. It takes a lot of time to detail a BIM model to be construction ready, and sometimes it still will not result in a clear detail. A detailed drawing is not just a view on the 3D model. It explains a construction principle, shows clearances, construction order, and it can just be a type detail showing general building principles not corresponding to the 3D model. Probably, you also have a library of details that you reuse across your projects. Contractors and engineers can benefit of this since they often continue working on files from architects. It is easy to add details from existing BIM models and files. But in general, it is useful for anybody in the building industry who is used to working with details to communicate on site. Hello and welcome to this breakout session about reusing and creating construction details in a BIM project. I will focus first on linking traditional 2D details to a BIM model and then on using smart 3D details in a project. Starting with linking an existing 2D details in my BIM project, I will use this detail from a manufacturer window in this project. To do this, I start by importing it in my current project. By doing this, the detail is copied to my project folder in a dedicated subfolder. The DWG file is now registered as a detail file. This enables the file to have extra functionality. If I open the detail file, I can see on the Layout tab the 2D representation of my detail. Now, my 2D detail file is not yet linked to the BIM model. I do want to link it so it's easier to track how many of these windows I have in my model, and so that the contractor can find the right information about the window. In order to do this, I will add a reference to this detail in the BIM model. The detail reference is represented as a solid and classified as a BIM detail. The solid can be created based on the bounding box of existing geometry. You can select solids, faces, or edges and set an inflate distance. The benefit of linking the 2D detail with a BIM model is that when I generate a sheet from a section plane that has the window, it will allow me to tag the detail. When I update my section where the detail reference is visible, it generates a frame on a dedicated layer. This frame can be tagged as any other BIM geometry. I can always check which details are tagged on the sheet. I can do this by running the detail checker from the project browser. If I need to, I can easily add the 2D detail representation to any sheet. I just showed you our new workflow to connect existing and new 2D construction details to your 3D BIM with BIM data. Now, I will show you how this new workflow also supports extracting construction details directly from your 3D BIM model. We call this a smart 3D detail. I will start by editing my column by adding some clearance and creating a base plate. I prioritize a selection of faces so I can push-pull the bottom side of the column to make space for my base plate. By utilizing some basic 3D modeling tools, I am able to create a 3D solid that represents this plate. This is all the detail I want in my BIM model, LOD 300. I can now use this geometry to create a new smart detail that I can propagate in the model. In order to do this, I will have to do a few steps. First, I select the reference solids. These are the solids used in finding similar connections. Next, I select the detail solids. These will be copied later when I propagate the detail. The detail volume inflation sets the detection zone for the smart detail. A name is suggested, but I can also give it a standard or a custom name. This name will be used when I tag a detail on sheets. A new file will be created with the same name, or I can give the file another name. The detail file is created, and the detail is added to the details folder. The icon with lightning shows us this is a smart, propagatable detail. When I open the detail, I see the reference and detail solids and the detail reference volume. By right-clicking or drag and dropping, I can propagate the detail in the model. For each found connection, I can accept, decline, or flip. Now, I will create the 2D detail representation of this smart detail. Remember that the 2D representation is the layout view of the detail file. Let's use ViewBase to create the 2D representation. This is only one way to create the 2D representation. I could also use the manual drafting in a classic CAD way. I place the projected views on the layout and press Enter to exit the command. On the Annotations tab, I can quickly find commands that will help me place dimensions on the layout page. I can also enable the Continue tool to continue dimensioning the nearby elements like our base plate. I will now add some bolts using our library panel. As long as they are not on the Detail Objects layer, they will not be propagated. ViewBase automatically updates the viewports. Smart details behave the same in sections as basic details. They have a reference solid in the BIM model that generates a frame on the sheets. I can tag the details, and add the 2D detail representation to the sheet. If you decide to change the geometry of those details after the arrangement of your layout, the detail checkers show you that the detail representation is no longer up to date and can be updated directly from the side panel. This is how Bricscad BIM handles both traditional 2D and smart 3D details in a BIM project. Thank you for your attention, and make sure you don't miss the rest of the breakout sessions so you can stay up to date with our newly added tools and features.